welcome to one of the most gorgeously talented icons of our time, Vidya Balan. And our homegrown icon, Dr. Harbeen Arora.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে।
आपका नाम?
विद्या बागची।
विद्या बागची?
नहीं नहीं, विद्या बी, नॉट अ बी।
একলা চলো রে, তবে একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে, তবে একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Question is सब बेवजह।
Best actor female goes to Vidya Balan for Dirty Picture.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো।
Harbeen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the showstopper evening we've been waiting for. To have amongst us somebody, and Vidya, I will use a dialogue from your movie, The Dirty Picture, to say what I'm going to say. This whole forum and why Vidya agreed to do this and be part of this and be here with all of you who have come from all parts of the world is because this forum is only three things. Woman, 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 and you are woman. I just was sitting with Vidya before coming here and just looking at her, sort of just meditating on her, on the being Vidya, and just coming out, I told her, if Raja Ravi Verma, a very famous painter of India who painted goddesses and Indian women most beautifully, if Raja Ravi Verma were to paint a woman today, it would be you. And I really mean it in all sincerity, Vidya. I really mean it with all my heart. Let me tell you a little about Vidya. And we will discover the person behind the choices that we know during the conversation. But for me, I have been following Vidya for a while. And for me, she embodies the quintessential Indian woman. Beautiful inside out. Herself inside out. A woman of conviction, a woman of self-belief. How does she be who she is? And in that is our collective learning. And so with all of you, I'm going to begin this beautiful evening with the beautiful Vidya Balan. To start with, I love your name. I think it's a very sacred name. And as children, for those of you who are from abroad, Vidya is a name every Indian child knows and has a very sacred relationship with it. So can you talk a little for our delegates from abroad, a little about what Vidya in Indian thought means? And we have goddesses dedicated to it.
Firstly, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Harbeen, for that wonderfully generous introduction. I'm going back with an inflated head for sure. Maybe I'll need 2 seats. But It feels great to be here, and I know you'll have had some very invigorating sessions, so I do hope this is an entertaining one. Growing up, I didn't quite like my name, Vidya, because I thought it was very old-fashioned. Every second Tambram girl was named Vidya. So I was like, there's nothing unique about it. My sister was named Priya. I thought it had, something to it, even though it was common. But I was like, Vidya is so bland. And I remember one time my principal in school, I was doing some masti in class, and she said, please stand up. Do you know what your name means? And I said, yeah, knowledge. She said, and I see you're completely devoid of it. I still remember that. At that time in school, I wasn't offended. I just felt like giggling, as I do even today. But I think it was much later that I began to appreciate the name that my parents had given me, and I just grew to like it. I think it has to do with one man I had a crush on telling me that, Vidya is such an old world name and you've got an old world charm, and suddenly the name became very cool. So I think, Vidya typically means knowledge, and knowledge just encompasses everything, knowledge about everything. Does it mean the all-knowing? Maybe. No, I'm kidding.
So your journey into films, there's quite a miraculous story of how from television you came to the cine world. But it's always where you wanted to be. So you had this dream and you were pursuing it, yet there were obstacles galore in your path. And there was self-doubt, and there was, I don't know how family responded. You went through a phase before you hit the right note with Parinita. Do you want to talk a little about that phase, a little about the self-doubt, which all of us go through in the pursuit of our dreams, and yet persistence pays. So to go back a little with that inspiration, do you want to just touch a little upon that?
I just want to say that self-doubt assails you throughout life is something that I've come to understand. I don't think you're able to extricate it from your being completely ever, and which is fine, but knowing that, everyone doubts themselves gives you some sort of assurance. But at that time, when I was going through my period of so-called struggle, I just completed my BA from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai, and I was wanting to become an actor. I was doing ad films. I'd done about 90 odd ad films, and I remember Anurag Basu, the director of films like Barfi, and now he's making a film called Jaga Jasoos. He called me. He was doing some television work, and he said, I've got the lead role for you. You have to do this. You're going to rule television. And I turned around and I said, I don't want to do television. I want to do cinema, because cinema is for posterity. And he said, Har koi Shah Rukh Khan nahi banta. And he said it very sweetly, but I said, haan, par koshish to karungi. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just following my heart. My family, we come from a complete non-film background. So we had no idea of what struggle meant. We only went by the perception of cinema being the big bad world where there are wolves waiting to eat you. So my parents were obviously worried. But I just kept telling them that this is all I want to do, just one film, and I'll quit. So, but that one film was just not getting made. I got signed for a Malayalam film, which midway got shelved. So suddenly, I had one more film to do, because I had said one complete film, right? And actually, though I'm laughing about it now, there were about 3 incomplete films that I was part of. And then because the word spread about this, I got labeled Jinx. So I got thrown out of a whole lot of films after that. And now my parents began to hope that I'd get that one film that would get completed. So I think it's just, how parents want the best for their children. So they kept hoping, and suddenly, I was doing another ad film. I was doing a music video for Euphoria, the band, and where I met Pradeep Sarkar, who made Parinita with me later. And on the first day of the shoot, he said, "Hey, ladki, tere saath film banaunga." And I said, "Kitne aaye, kitne gaye? Ye film banayenge." And we had shot through the night, and it was grueling the first day itself. So I thought he was just saying that because he had another 4 days to go through. So I thought, aise hi keh rahe hain man rakhne ke liye. But he actually kept up his promise. But before that, when we were preparing for this film, I got a Bengali film. And there was this insecurity in me that one film was being very elusive. And therefore, if I was getting a film, I should do it. Of course, it was a lovely script, and it was a first-time director. And I was committed to doing my first film, Parinita, with Dada. But I told him, I said, "You have to let me do this. You have to let me do this Bengali film, because आप फिल्म मेरे साथ बनाना चाह रहे हैं पर प्रोड्यूसर नहीं है वगैरह वगैरह." At that point I was being dramatic. I said, when I'm old, I want to know that I was part of one film, complete film at least. And I think I emotionally blackmailed him, and he said, "Okay, go ahead, do the film." I did the film, and I got a Best Actress award with that very first film. So suddenly, anyway, I was feeling better because Dada was showing faith in me, and then, the Bengali film happened. So things had begun to look better. But I think the only two things that have always held me together, they still do, are family and my faith. I'm someone who prays a lot, and that I get from my family. I'm irreligious. I don't pray to any particular God. But I pray to that supreme power, to that supreme being, that energy, or whatever we like to call it. And I'm an eternal optimist, so I know that if the sun goes down, it has to come up. So I keep waiting until the sun rises, and it does. Sorry, I tend to talk a lot, Harbin. You can ask me one question and I can go on for the entire evening.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. So, I think you're Destiny's child. Parinita, suddenly everybody took notice of a powerhouse of an actor that you are. There's an electricity on the screen that I find when you are there. Actually, don't look out for the male actors there. I look at you. And there's a
I love you for that. Thank you.
And there is, you've carried movies on your shoulders. Just you, without a male lead. That's the first one, really. She has changed the narrative in Indian cinema. There are actually now movies made for women in the lead roles, and the word leading lady actually means the leading lady now. It's not just the woman with the hero. Yeah? And that's because of Vidya. Because Vidya chose certain roles, and she came to choosing those roles because of destiny, as I was saying. There were moments, and we'll talk about that now. There are movies like Kahani, where we see the Vidya as we know today, and the Vidya that we know we will continue to see in the future. And then there is Vidya in certain other movies where you sort of try to...
I can name them for you.
Yes, please.
No.
Where people probably told you that, okay, that's enough, this role of conviction and courage is good enough for one movie, but that's not what the norm in the film industry is, and you have to conform, and you have to do the thing that everybody does. You've got to work through the formula, and you've got to have the blow-dried hair, the size 0 figure, and the clothes for dance or whatever. And how did that confuse you, and how did that take you into from your conviction to confusion, and then big confusion, then back to clarity and back to conviction? And what was that process?
Oh my God, I'd never thought about it like this, but you've actually broken it down so well. I do think that I came into the industry being a very self-assured girl, like I told you. I didn't think I was lacking in anything. I thought I was the best actress ever born. Really. And Parinita kind of convinced me that I was right. You know, everyone was praising me, and I was receiving a whole lot of Best Debut awards, and for someone who wanted just one complete film, it was a big deal. The honeymoon period continued for a few more films, and then slowly but surely the criticism began to happen, and I wasn't used to it. I had thought that everyone was in love with me forever. Does that sound like marriage? No, but I suddenly I began to get criticized, and there came a stage where everything I did or didn't do was being criticized. So I was completely confused. Of course, there was a whole lot about the clothes I was wearing, about how, what body size I was. It was all being discussed on national television daily. And, I used to, of course, sarcastically tell myself that, well, you're so important that these things are being discussed on national television. But deep down, this girl who was, I've always been, I was a fat child. So, but I never looked at myself as anything but beautiful, because that's how at home, even within my extended family or friends or whatever, no one ever told me, no one criticized me. Sometimes they would tease me, but there was never criticism for it. And suddenly, therefore, I was questioning. The only thing, thankfully, that people didn't find fault with were my performances. So at that stage when, my pairing with a certain actor, or my choices of films, or my clothes, or my way, everything was being discussed threadbare. I spent a lot of time at home with my family. I think more than ever, I've always been a very family-oriented person, but I think more than ever I began to, there came in a transparency into the relationship with my parents, where I began to express and share with them exactly how I was feeling. My sister and brother-in-law are very strong influences in my life too. And I would just keep telling them all that I was going through. And some in substance of what they said to me was like, talent can't be hired. You can hire stylists, you can hire physical trainers, you can hire a good nutritionist. So no one is questioning your talent, so you're in a very good space. And what are you here to do? Act. So go ahead and act. Everything else can be taken care of from the outside. And suddenly that made a lot of sense, It took a lot of introspection, like I said, and I went back to wearing what I liked wearing the most, which is a sari. Because when I came into the industry, people told me that, you can't be wearing a sari, you're so young. What are people going to think, that you're traditional or you're conservative, or it's just older to wear a sari. So I had begun to get influenced by all these things that were being told to me. And, but when I was going through this time of self-talk, I somewhere told myself that, I can never make each one of you in the room happy. Someone at some point will find some fault with me, and which is only fair. Where there is more than one person in a room, that is bound to happen. There are bound to be differences. So how do I make sure that there is one person on my side always? I said that I can't make sure anyone but me is on my side always. And that's what I decided to do. So whatever happens, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, how can this get any better, instead of saying, how can it get any worse? So I think that's what it is.
So again, I'll come to the moment of the self-belief when it developed. And you had these fantastic movies, you know. For the dirty picture, I must tell you, in a world where competition is so high, like Vidya said, she decided to focus on her talent, and then rest everything had to follow according to the story. So fun movie, The Dirty Picture, which was made on the story of a real actress from the South who became in her times the big sex symbol, which was a huge disruption, at that time in the cinema of that time. So Vidya was playing the role of this actress, and she actually put on like 12 kilos for that.
Which wasn't difficult at all for me. Not for me. So a lot was made of it, and I'd say, I had to eat a lot, but I was kidding.
And then Ishqiya. I think of
Ishqiya happened before.
So I'm just going on those movies where we see the new Vidya, who had conviction and who was picking scripts, or directors were writing those scripts, seeing that new focus on talent. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that. But Ishqiya, we saw a no makeup look, which was absolutely something. I don't know how much courage that took again to go on screen without makeup. So can you talk a little about the choices and the belief systems that have been developing along with your rising self-confidence and your rising belief in your own talent, and showing the talent above everything else? Everything else comes, but the talent is foregrounded. So what kind of beliefs have been developing in you, which have resulted in those kind of choices that we see outwardly? Okay, going without makeup, you're okay with it, but you must be developing some sort of belief system about what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a woman, and what it means to be an actor. Because from now on, your choices will be determined by your beliefs, like you very beautifully put in that interview that I was just privy to. My work is an extension of my beliefs. So what are those new beliefs that you have developed in this beautiful journey of going through, this whole phase? So what is the understanding that you have arrived at as a human being, as a woman, and as an actor?
I think the beliefs did not develop over time while we learn and grow every single day. And on a film set, the growth, I think, and the learning is that much more accelerated. Because you're living two parallel realities at the same time. I do think that the beliefs were there. At that time, I somehow developed the courage to follow my beliefs. So my choices were reflective of my beliefs. I think, and what were those beliefs? That an actor is someone, primarily, I think this is what I arrived at, that, an actor is someone who lives different people's lives on screen. And no two people are the same. So whatever that difference means, sometimes it's in a mannerism, sometimes it's in the physicality of a character, sometimes it's in the voice. So whatever it takes to bring about that difference, I will do. So sometimes it's no makeup, sometimes it's putting on weight. Those really are things that, the script drives you.
But those characters were written probably keeping an actor like you in mind.
A lot of times I was told that, but everyone tells you that, so you don't know.
Not really, because those were new kind of roles, very strong female protagonist roles. So, they must be knowing this about you to have kind of...
No, I'd like, as much as I'd like to believe that, I do think that, Ishqiya, for example, was a script that had been written before, but had been put on the back burner, apparently. And then, I don't know, I hadn't even done any work for them to come to me with this film, but suddenly they came to me. They had gone to a few other actresses with the film, I believe, but when they came to me, I grabbed it with both hands, because what I found extremely interesting was that this woman, who from the appearance, she seems like a simple, you said no makeup look, one, she was oozing sexuality, she was unapologetic about it, and secondly, therefore, she was not therefore. Secondly, she was extremely manipulative and you couldn't smell it. You know, I think that was very exciting for me because normally when you see a femme fatale, you imagine the person to be, we have stereotypes, so Western, cigarette in hand, maybe alcohol in the other. I don't know, there are stereotypes that we adhere to, but this was really breaking down the stereotypes. So I found that, and it was, I think because there are all kinds of people.
So does that excite you, breaking down the stereotype?
Yeah,
Is it something that challenges you,
It
attracts you and draws out something within you that
I think
you love
so.
to discover?
I think as a person, as a woman, you see different kinds of people around you all the time. I know that there are people like the woman I played in Ishkia, whose name was Krishna. I know there are people like that. I know there are people like, different kinds of characters I've played. And that's what I think, I may not know them personally, but just knowing that there are different kinds of people, and that's where I think my sociology background helps me to believe in the possibility of possibilities. To believe that this is possible, but this is also possible. So this may not be true in my part of the world or in my world, but maybe that's true in your world. I think that's what spurs me as an actor.
What about the environment that you're in? Evidently, it's a different environment, right? And you stand out as somebody who's unique, who's unconventional in her choices, who's who she is, who is her own person, and for whom there's a very thin line between the actor and the person. This sort of
That's where the actor in me comes in.
Yeah, that's
in making
very,
you feel like there's no difference.
it's very contiguous, but
No, I'm kidding.
yeah, sure. But the environment that you are, what do you feel about the environment? You're a very deep person. There's an honesty in you. You are searching for honesty. You're striving to live with that integrity of being one person. But is that so in the fraternity? You hear all sorts of things about the industry as such. Do you find people like you? Do you have friends in the industry who resonate with your kind of being? Or do you think it's a different world and you've got a little oasis in the middle of the desert and that's who you are? How do you feel about it?
Finally, the industry is part of society. So the same people are inhabiting the industry. So it's just that insecurity is really high within the industry and we're less able to conceal it. I think it gets written about, it gets captured on camera. So that really is the difference. But I think there are all kinds of people. There are misconceptions or perceptions about actresses not having an opinion, not being well-read, not being articulate. And I think I've seen all of that change. I think a lot of times actresses are expected to dumb themselves down. To fit into the system. It's convenient for everyone to let the status quo continue. But the truth is that I'm as much as, it's flattering for me to say you're an exception, there are, I think, each one of us who's an exception has actually gone ahead and done something different or worthwhile.
So obviously you've now figured out what kind of movies you want to do, the kind of self-belief and belief systems that you have that informs the kind of scripts that you choose, the roles that you pick. And not just that, in the causes that you espouse. For instance, you are the brand ambassador for this whole sanitation movement. In the villages, and like we were talking about India in the morning, that a lot of people and women they have no access to toilets and they have to go out and defecate in the open, in the fields. So Vidya is a brand ambassador for sanitation and also espouses the cause. There is a beautiful advertisement that she does, and I must share this with you. It's happened very recently. So she does an advertisement where she's seen telling a village girl that you have to ask your in-laws whether they have a toilet in their houses or not, and if they don't have it, well, refuse to get married and, ask for it. It's your right to ask for a toilet in the house where you are going to get married. And so there's a whole story to it. And recently, a couple of days back, there's actually a girl in a village who, inspired by what Vidya says on that advertisement, has actually called off a marriage. Because she asked the groom, she figured out that they didn't have a toilet, so she said no to the marriage. So you did at least about 100 advertisements before, at the start of your career. Those were perhaps the entertainment matrix. They were like, okay, there's a product, whatever it is, that's fine. Soap, oil, whatever. But now, as I said, because of a highly developed and a vocal, crystallized belief system, it informs your choices and you take up things that have a meaning. Also, you might be doing other things, but you go towards things. And you see this sort of social change happening because of that. What do you think is the next step for Vidya? We know in the movies you will continue to do movies that call out the actor in you and the unconventional Vidya, and we'll continue to see that. But do we also see a reinvention of Vidya as an agent of change in society? And does that double role inspire you? And do you want to do more of it? And do we see that happening a lot more of in the future, not just on television, but maybe at the grassroots in real life as well?
I think I'm an actor first, and my focus will always be that. That also gives me the reach so that I can give people a message. So therefore, I was in Garhwal doing a trek last weekend, and I was walking up. There was just this couple walking down from the mountain, and suddenly they go a little ahead and they stop and they say, "Aap shauchalay wale Vigyapan mein hai na?" And I said, "Arey wah, they don't recognize me from my films, but they recognize me from that campaign." And that is really, that was very satisfying and fulfilling, and an entire conversation started about this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, where they said that, हम सबको लगता है कि जितना हम कर सके, अगर कचरा कहीं पड़ा हुआ है तो हम उठा लेते हैं, बैग में डाल लेते हैं, कचरे के डब्बे में जाके फेंकते हैं. So there was a sense of participation on part of all of them, and they were saying that, of course, they had access to toilets, but they were talking about how this message is slowly spreading even into areas where, not slowly, actually the campaign is being really, has been very effective also because it's bombarding the media. So people are constantly exposed to this, and that is going to cause a change of mindset. It will take time, but I think we're headed in the right direction. So it's very satisfying when people say that, and therefore I know that I've contradicted myself. I told you that they recognize me from the ad, but I think more or less the reach, I will be able to leverage. Yeah, if I am the actor, and that is what I actually live for. If therefore that gives me the opportunity to do something more meaningful and larger, it's great. Sanitation is something I feel very strongly about. You heard me, I was telling someone that I was in Banaras. I go to Banaras once a year to a little village, to different villages, and 2.5 hours from Banaras actually, where we've started this education campaign, which is called Chote Kadam Pragati Ki Or. And, on one of my first visits there, we reached the village. I finished my duties and we were on the way back, and I said, listen, I need to use the loo. And they said, yahan to kuch nahi hai. So I said, kuch nahi hai, matlab, kahin to bathroom hogi na? So they said, nahi, nahi, aap khet mein chale jaiye. I said, khet mein? You're shocked because we all have a certain perception of development and progress being very holistic, and we think that seeing those buildings around us and seeing the metros and seeing all of that is your reality. I'm talking about 5 years ago. And that was really shocking for me. I said, nahi, main thodi der baad kahan pe shauchalay hai? So they said, abhi Banaras pahunchne tak kuch nahi hai. So I said, okay, then I had to actually use the fields. And I kept thinking of contaminating the fields. I was worried about people who would get a sneak peek, and it was embarrassing. It was in a way, I felt like it was a loss of dignity. And if I felt that in one instance, I keep thinking of those people who have to do it, women who have to go before sunrise to, for whatever they need to do, to the fields before anyone wakes up. That, and at around that time was when Mr. Jairam Ramesh asked me if I'd be brand ambassador for sanitation, and I said, what does it entail? And he said, this is what it does, and I was more than happy to do it. And what's fantastic is that those ads were being shown and all of that. Then the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan started, and suddenly the entire country is singing the anthem of Swachh Bharat. So, I think I can't take credit for it in any way, but I think we're just ready. We were on the brink of it, and it's happened. But I was there at the right place at the right time.
That's destiny.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes, absolutely. We've been talking about a range of issues about women, the Women Economic Forum. And one of the issues that we've been really talking is about the mindset in India, abroad, concerning a woman. So if you're a woman, and if you're sitting in the boardroom, saying something, probably there's a little silent misogyny. You'll be told, okay, you can be silent, maybe not those kind of words, but saying, okay, we'll take that point later. If a woman driver is on the street, oh God, it has to be a woman driver because she took the wrong turn or gave the wrong indicator. There's stereotypes in the mind about women, which shows a certain mindset about women. We also come from a culture that also values feminine energy very highly. At the same time, we see this little contradiction daily in society. What do you think can be done to sort of correct this imbalance or address this imbalance, given the fact that in our regular movies, I'm not talking about the ones that you do, which are again stories, but there is nothing done to sort of address this aspect. On the contrary, there is a little chauvinism there, there's a little patriarchy there, and women play sort of two-dimensional roles, and things are done to sort of create the idea that you can play with the woman. It's okay. If she says no, it doesn't really mean no. And you see, I'm not blaming Bollywood for it, no way. There is, I'm not blaming our cinema. I love our cinema, I love our movies, I love our music, everything about that. But since you are from that world, and and we see a sort of that sort of a mindset problem in the streets, where there's something like eve teasing. A girl is walking on the street and somebody will just come and grope her, thinking she's public property or private property or whatever. She can't, it's 8 o'clock, she's at night. And everybody will blame her if she gets touched or molested or raped and say, why were you out at 8 o'clock at night? It's silly of you. You asked for it. There are all these kind of mindsets which are not really, kind of working towards even recognizing the woman as a subject, as an entity who has a right to her own body, who has a right to her own life, who has a right to her own choices. So being in India, you'll get all of that. What do you think? I don't know, we've been looking for answers here. What do you think women can do themselves to elicit a change in the mindset? Of course, one woman at a time, I guess, and then the collective self, as we have women connected from all over the world, being there for each other, at least getting the respect and love from each other. That's a good start. But what do you think can really begin to happen for this change in mindset to occur at the larger society level?
I think that change in mindset does not happen overnight. It happens over time, and that is therefore manifesting at this point more than before. And I think as we go on, you'll see more and more women who become aware of the fact that they have the first right to themselves. They have the right to their bodies, their minds, their choices, their everything, So I really think it's, of course, it has to be a multi-pronged approach, and I'm not the first one to say it, but it is going to take, we're dealing with, not decades, centuries of conditioning, where the woman, not just the man has been taught that the woman is your property, the woman also believes she is the man's property. So, as much as we are educated and evolved, somewhere you believe that the man, at one point your father, or your brother, at another point your husband, and then your son, or your male boss, someone or the other has that right over you. Therefore, intentionally, unintentionally, you give up control over yourself in the hands of men. So I don't think it's just men. We women are also perpetuating that. And that, I find it most amazing when, women wear, powerful women wear slightly plunging necklines, and then there are other women who snigger and say, no wonder she's gotten to the top. So you are taking away, she chooses to wear what she does, but you cannot take away from her ability. But that's because we are constantly threatened for how the men are going to perceive us, and we want to earn favor with the men in our lives at every point. So because we derive our identity from them, we derive our identity either from the people we are related to or through association. So I think because we are vying for that attention, that male attention, because that's where the identity comes from, we are constantly insecure even with each other. So when you talk about a sisterhood, here it might be easier for us to acknowledge that because we're a little more educated and we believe we're evolved. But for, a lot of women who are not going out, who are not financially dependent, who are dependent on the men in their lives, I think how the men in the house perceive you, and therefore that Saas Bahu stories which have been going on forever, and all that comes from a certain need to be relevant to the men in your lives. I think that's conditioning that's going to take forever to break down. But I guess we're all aware, there's awareness, and not just through education, but I'm not a social media fan, but I will admit that I feel that today social media has, and the internet actually has really reached where most people haven't been able to, the nooks and crannies, and slowly people are becoming aware of a world different from their own, a world where it is possible for you to just be who you are and to have respect and to live your life the way you want to. So I think the change is underway, and it will be for a while before it's an equal world. I don't know if that's possible.
Oh, yes.
Maybe we'll be, maybe then the other, the reverse struggle will begin.
Possibly. That was a very, very insightful and a sensitive view of the whole thing, and very perceptive. So I think that's really a new way to look at it. You got married, right? And in the industry, you have this thing, the moment the actress gets married, her career is finished. She's not going to get films, she's not going to be asked. But it hasn't happened for you again. You're reversing every bit of the formula every time. So why is it different for you?
No, I think it has been actually, if you look at yesteryear actresses from Nutan to Sharmila Tagore, there have been a lot of actresses who were married and had very successful careers. Something changed in between, of course. But now, again, we've had Kajol, someone who's done films even after she got married. Aishwarya is doing a film now. Kareena is still working. I'm working. So I think the thing is that I will admit that my past 3 films have not worked, and that thought did cross my mind. I said, has marriage impacted? Because it's conditioning that I'm also dealing with, and I said, is it really that? Maybe it's just, it took me some time to think that there was something in those films that did not resonate with audiences, and I did not need to personalize it, something that women do very easily all the time. We like to take all the blame, never the credit. But I think it's to do with whether it's a good film or not, and a good film works, period. And sometimes, there are variables, there are multiple variables that contribute to a film success. So I'm very hopeful that Hamari Adhuri Kahani will prove that married actresses work at the box office.
Do you want to share a little about that story? On that note, it's a very interesting story, and which borders, which is about being woman and having to deal with choices, and about the reality of married life and the reality of power equations in marriage. Do you want to talk a little about
it's actually what I just spoke about. It's about a marriage where this man thinks his wife is his property. He doesn't treat her like a human being at all. She's just his wife, and beyond that she has no identity or reason to be. I think at some point she doesn't even know she has a choice out of that. She's a very traditional woman, but she meets this man who makes her realize that inside her there is this person who's alive, there is this woman, and suddenly she begins to realize that, I'm not just his wife, I'm also a person. I think, and therefore it's not your typical extramarital affair story. It is a film which says love is love when it liberates, not when it possesses. So, but it is primarily a love story. This, I think, would be the large takeaway. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a few questions from the audience here. Who has a question? Rita from Kuwait.
Hi. I'm someone who fluctuates very easily. I keep getting told, oh my God, you've lost so much weight, you're looking lovely. You put on weight, na? All the time, every time I step out, and I find it, I've begun to switch off when someone talks about my weight or my body. For me, because really I am, yes, I did lose those 12 kgs, but the point is that whether or not it was around a film, my weight has always been the subject of discussion. So I just get very tired. Maybe it's just time I began to throw my weight around. Maybe I don't do it enough. But weight or no weight, I've come to love my body just the way it is. Thank you. I meant excess weight or no excess weight, not weight or no weight.
Yes, that's Shalini Piramal.
Hi Vidya.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you, you've done different kinds of roles and very serious roles also. Is there any one particular dream role that you're yet waiting?
Really, as in I've never had, I've never thought that, oh my God, I hope I get to play a character like this. And I've always been surprised, therefore, when someone came to me with an Ishqiya or a No One Killed Jessica or a Dirty Picture. It's different every time. So I think the writers have great imaginations, and they work better than my dreams do. So I'm just going to leave it to them and hope they surprise me time and again.
So you're satisfied, fully accomplished?
I think fully accomplished, I wouldn't say. There's a lifetime ahead for accomplishment. But yes, I've definitely done more than I set out to. I think the universe is kind.
All the best.
Thank you.
Yes, that is Diwalia. Her name is named after Diwali. So her name is Diwalia. She's from France and she lives in Los Angeles. And she has an incredible story. She jumped off a cliff, because she wanted to fly, and she then couldn't fly. And then she was actually paralyzed for 3 years. And then she's here with us right now and traveling all over the world, bearing testimony to the fact that miracles happen.
Well,
Wow.
thank you, but it was not about me. I just thank you very much, Ami. Thank you. I just wanted to say I've never heard of you before. I live in Hollywood. You're so not only beautiful, but you're so amazing. Like I really feel overwhelmed, and you touch my heart. Like you're just wonderful.
Thank
I was
you.
wondering why you. I mean, do you get offers from Hollywood? Why don't we know you in Hollywood?
You know, George Clooney wanted to marry me.
You should have said yes.
In my dreams. No, I'm kidding. No, I haven't got any offers from Hollywood, very honestly. And I'm very happy with the work I'm doing here, but I am a greedy actor. If there are good offers, I'm willing to go anywhere in the world. But I don't know why there haven't been any offers yet.
Okay, so we need to change that. So we started already with the social media. I'm sure that my publicist, Denise O'Brien, also started to tweet and yes.
Oh! Hi.
So we're already tweeting about you, Facebooking. Like, all
Oh,
about
lovely.
Yes.
Thank you. And you're my best friend from today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who has a question? Yes. That is K. Rigger from Manila, Philippines.
Yeah, forum. This is basically about women. I haven't heard it during the last sessions, but I want to ask now. Very pageant question, but to you, how do you define a real woman? I'll probably give my own definition later, but I want to hear you first.
No, I think a real woman.
Yeah, for you. Just to you.
A real woman is one who realizes that she has the power to create and to change like no one else.
Wow.
I don't know if, and that's, I don't mean by create just procreate, but just create.
Very powerful definition.
Thank you. Thank you.
No man has a question. Oh, I see. Jesse.
I did a workshop with women in which I shared some Hawaiian love songs, and I was wondering if sometime I could do that for you.
I love that. Go ahead right now.
Iko ohia koloha Awana I ka pohia moe I ka la Iko ohia koloha I ha'alele aku o I kua kahi au Awa ko koa I na hoa pau Ai ama ona e inu a kena A ka anae, a ka alu'ulu nai wa maka no ka meha na O helike, ao helike me oe. Nothing compares to you, Vidya. Ukamehameha aui ka po. Mehe manu kani ole E haku ko I nei ka pu'uwai E o mai ai he a ka hewa Nā kumu
Ikano ye teki hapai. Ikaliani kahoime. Ni poiki ane loha. Pela ka ano ikamaka. Uvei ao helike me oi. Nothing compares to you, Vidya. Nothing compares to you.
That was lovely. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back and tell my husband that someone sang me a love song. Thank you. It was lovely. Thank you.
Now I know what to do to make a man break into a song. I took the tips with you. A question?
Ma'am, I'm Jovito Tumelo. I represent the media here in Goa.
Hi.
To ask you, a lot of the conversation today has been about the beauty of actresses, right? The external beauty. But what you present for us here is not only beauty, but I think so a wonderful personality. I mean,
thank you.
The things that you tell us through this conversation and the way you portray roles in films. I mean, there's a lot more depth that goes into it. And I don't know, on behalf of whoever, I'd like to...
there. Wonderful. I know you're inspired.
Yes, I don't know, I'd just say I'd like to congratulate you. And if there is anything that you could tell us, what is the source to keep such a happy, bubbly personality?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Thank you. Firstly, I think, beauty is as beauty does. So I've never really focused too much on... I don't know, I don't necessarily appreciate just the ideal standards of beauty that are prescribed. I think I've been just, and you see people around you. I've grown up watching people, seeing people around me all my life who wore absolutely, which is, no makeup, but they sparkled, they didn't pay that much attention to their appearance. Today there's too much focus on appearance. Not just how you're turned out, what you say, how you say it. We're all constantly on tenterhooks. But again, like I was telling you that many years ago, I just liberated myself from that. I said, I can't make sure that everyone's going to like me and forever. So let me just be myself and let me be my biggest, I don't know what you call it, source, fan, supporter, strength. And that's how it's been. Not that I don't flounder, not that I don't, I do go through a lot of self-doubt. But I think now, with experiences, that period of time that I take to bounce back has reduced. But I think it's just, and I am an eternal optimist, like I said, and that's what makes me smile. When someone smiles at me, I feel like everything in the world is okay. And when someone's not nice, I also am very sensitive. I just feel like saying, what is your problem? Why can't you just smile, But, I think it's just that the source is that faith that the world is a good place. And I don't mean to sound poetic or anything of that sort, but genuinely, I believe there's a lot of good, and it's for all of us to share in. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, that is Mr. Vijay Nayak, editor of Sakal from Delhi.
Vidya, I want to ask you about the role which is being played by the actors who have become politicians and they are representing Bollywood in the parliament. What do you think about them?
I think, at one point films used to be the haven for people who tried many other things and succeeded and still wanted to try their hand at films, and sometimes had not succeeded at other places. But films was something that everyone wanted to try, and today I think politics, everyone wants to give a shot at. But I think, therefore, you have a lot of actors. Some of them have been effective politicians, so great, more power. We need people from all walks of life. But we need true blue politicians also, and people who've been in the services, and people who understand all that better, you know. It's politics is not only about the vote bank. No. Like I said, you know, never say never, but I don't think I'd be able to contribute effectively, honestly. And with commitment, I doubt it. I'm a bit self-involved. I'm an actor.
Yes, I see too many hands. How do I choose? Rahul Narvekar, the CEO of Indian Roots, an e-commerce portal with NDTV, which is promoting crafts heritage and also new designers
Personal
from
question,
India.
Vidya. Today's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
How tough was it to convince your mom you wanted to be an actress, right?
Yeah.
So tell us something about your mother, and how tough was the conversation when you said, I want to be an actress in Bollywood?
Are you You're not. You're Narvekar, Maharashtrian. Okay. My mother actually said, you know, what is all this? You know, what have you been reading? Who have you been watching? No South Indian girl ever becomes an actor. And I said, Hema Malini is South Indian. And I said, she's the biggest. She said, no, but from our family, education is the only thing. And, you know, if your grandfather was alive, he would have just beaten you to pulp. So I said, you know, but my father is very soft. She knew that he would never do that. And like I said, so there was shock. There was shock that a profession that none of us had ever thought of entering was, I was desirous of entering that profession. I was wanting to be an actor. And every South Indian is trained in music and dance, but not in drama. You know, music and dance, the association has always been, it's a part of our culture, but drama or acting is not given that darja. So I understood where she was coming from, but having said that, over time, I think initially she would accompany me to shoots because she didn't know how it would be for me, whether someone would make a pass at me or what, but I remember she accompanied me on every single day of shoot on my first television serial, and she realized that there were lots of people like me or from backgrounds like I come from. So, and she realized that I was capable of taking care of myself, and she stopped coming with me on set. And at some point, like I told you, she was praying that film, that elusive film happens. So I think initially she was very, very averse to it, but then today she appreciates, or rather she's very proud of my work.
Thank you. Kiranji, I'll make a second request to you. You are with us. Please ask a question. Let's quickly get a mic. Yeah.
I'm actually nervous.
Vidya, how did marriage strengthen you? Did marriage change you? Or in any way, tell us, how has marriage impacted you in any way? Or how did you reach out? How did you handle it? How have you balanced it?
You know, I keep asking myself the same question, Kiranji, because I hadn't seen myself getting married ever. And then I met Siddharth, who I'm now married to. And suddenly we started seeing each other, and this seemed like the natural progression. I could imagine spending the rest of my life with him. Also because, like I said, he has been brought up to believe that marriage is, you know, and I'm saying he particularly because I was not sure whether I wanted to get married before I met him, but I realized that here was a man who saw marriage as coming together of equals, of two people, of partners, just like I did. So I was happy to get married, and touch wood, it's been great. I will say that life does change after marriage. I can't really quantify or qualify exactly how things change, but I think initially, I remember after I got married, I wanted to take a break for a bit. I was going through some health issues, but I killed myself to continue to work despite my terrible health, because I felt like, what will people say now? You know, as women, we also, as professionals, we don't want to be seen as compromising on any of those. So I kept telling myself, no, people will think that now I'm slowing down because I've gotten married, that I'm not as interested because I've gotten married. So I have to keep at it. And I kept at it, and at the same time I was trying to do everything at home. And Siddharth told me, he said, suddenly why have you become this other person? You were, you've never been, you don't have to be a homemaker. You and I can equally distribute things between each other, and I'm so grateful to him for that, because like I said, I'm also, there is the conditioning in me also, even if I want to wish it away. So somewhere I was trying to be this perfect professional and wife. I think what's happened after 2 years of marriage, what began to happen is I let go. I said, let me just do what makes me happy. In the time that I'm free, if I want to, take complete charge of the house, I'll do that. In the time that I'm passionately involved in the film, I'm not going to be involved at home, and that's also absolutely okay. So I think that's the big realization that has happened, that you don't have to be perfect. Somewhere I think we put this pressure on ourselves, and I did for a while, but now I've let go of that pressure. I think you've said it just right. It's being all. It's being this and that, and you're trying, to be there for your family, and you're trying to be the professional, and you're trying to be there as a homemaker, and as the wife, and as somewhere again I felt a little lost, and then thankfully, I think again conversations with my loved ones has just helped me ease up. I think I've become an easier person. I don't carry any burden on my shoulders anymore. Thank you.
Yes, Soumya? Rashmi. Rashmi is part of an all-women expedition by road from Delhi to London.
Such a happy and positive person, but you've also done some really dark and intense roles. So how difficult or easy is it to switch that off at the end of the day?
It wasn't easy before. It would actually take a toll on my health. Like I said, at the time that I got married, I had just come out of 2 intense films, The Dirty Picture and Kahani. And I felt like I needed a break. In Hollywood, actually, they go through detox programs after they've done intense films. We have nothing like that here. So, I should have ideally taken a break at that time, and I would have had no health issues then. So it does take a toll. Finally, you're playing with emotions. You're pushing yourself to feel things that you probably don't feel on a particular day or at that particular time. So it is sometimes very, very tough, and it leaves you feeling drained. But I think Hamari Adhuri Kahani is an extremely intense love story, like you must have seen in the trailer. But this is the one film, I think it's been a coming of age in some way for me, because I just didn't come out feeling drained, and this is a first. I came out feeling I'd have a good day of shoot, and then I'd completely switch off. I think I've learned to do that over time. It's taken me 10 years. I complete 10 years in June. But it does take a toll, and you have to have you have to know how to unwind, which you learn only over time.
So what helps you to switch off? That's interesting. What helps you? What's your tool to switch off?
Music, sitting and watching the waves. I live on Juhu Beach in Bombay, so just sitting and watching the waves sometimes just doing absolutely nothing. I also write my diary, so the diary helps me vent sometimes. And my niece and nephew, I have a twin niece and nephew, my sister's kids, a boy and a girl, and actually even if I just speak to them on the phone, I realize that suddenly something changes, you know. I think children have that ability. So I think all these things help. And of course, chatting, I chew Siddharth's brains. I have to tell him exactly what happened in the day and all of that. Once I get it out of my system, then I think I'm able to unwind. And at the end of the day, I always pray.
And have your prayers changed in their vibration, in their energy? Maybe earlier you asked for maybe a movie. God, get me that one movie. And now, do you think your relationship with God, with your own spirituality, has also sort of been affected by that? Just let go. It's okay. Just be with me, or some sort of a qualitative change in your relationship with the Force.
Yeah, I think that constantly goes through, you know, ups and downs. It's sometimes you feel that you know the meaning of surrender, and then suddenly you're surprised because when you feel you know how to surrender, something shows you that you haven't completely been able to do that. So I think that's a constant process of, I don't know really. I just pray. Sometimes I pray more, sometimes I pray less, sometimes I don't pray at all. So I think it's just, I go with how I'm feeling.
So what are you going to write in your diary tonight?
That I had the most fabulous session here.
Amazing.
No,
amazing,
genuinely, I've had a lovely time, and thank you all. The energy is great here. I mean it.
We have a little surprise for you from all of us here. So I will call upon Mansi Mahajan.
Thanks, Arvind. As a taboo breaker, an exceptionally talented Indian actress, you are an epitome of feminine power who represents quintessential womanhood in the Indian film industry. You uphold a charismatic persona and depict strong, inspiring, realistic women, characters in your most laudable ways. By your spectacular and powerful performances, you have carved a distinct place for female roles and given stature to women-oriented cinema. As an internationally acclaimed actress, you were appointed as a core jury member at the 2013 edition of the Cannes Film Festival. You were also awarded with the Padma Shri by the Government of India in 2014 for your incredible contribution to Indian cinema, and with 5 Filmfare Awards, which are verily the Indian Oscars. We salute you for uplifting womanhood in a male-dominated industry, and for all the inspirational protagonists that you have essayed with aplomb and originality. For your role in reviving the feminine regard in the Indian film fraternity, and for your brilliant portrayal of some of the most magnificent women characters. The All Ladies League at the Women Economic Forum is proud to confer on you, Vidya Balan, the award for the Iconic Woman of the Decade for excellence in empowering women-oriented cinema.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very grateful to Vidya being here with us, coming all the way. As I said, she really deeply supports
the cause of connecting women all over the world, and that's why she made it all the way to be here with all of you who are all on your way back tomorrow onwards, and to carry this very sweet memory and an inspiring and engaging session with one of the most fascinating women, not just of the Indian industry, but of India herself. Thank you, Vidya.
I couldn't have given my mother a better Mother's Day gift, truly. Thank you.